It was the middle of the day. Traffic moved. Stores were open. People walked the sidewalks. Inside a white car on Chicago's South Side, a young mother sat behind the wheel, her baby strapped safely in the back seat. Then gunfire exploded in broad daylight. 50 shots. 3 masked gunmen. Witnesses diving for cover. When it was over, 26-year-old Gabryel Ayers was gone. But what stunned everyone wasn't just the violence. It was what first responders found inside that car. A detail so unexpected, so impossible, it changed how the entire story would be remembered. Because in the middle of horror, there was one fragile miracle. Before we continue, subscribe and drop a comment telling me where you're watching from. Because this story isn't just about violence. It's about a life that mattered. A mother who was loved. And a community demanding justice that still hasn't come. What you're about to witness is the complete story of Gabryel Ayers. And why her name should never be forgotten. When most people heard about Gabryel Ayers, they heard about how she died. About the gunfire. About the violence. About the tragedy. But before February 5, 2026, Gabryel Ayers was living. Not just existing. Living. She was 26 years old. A hairstylist. A daughter. A friend. A mother. The kind of person who lit up rooms without trying. Who made people feel seen. Who worked hard and loved harder. She'd grown up on Chicago's South Side. In Auburn Gresham. A neighborhood that doesn't make national news unless something terrible happens. A neighborhood where people work multiple jobs to keep lights on. Where families look out for each other because they have to. Where violence is a constant background hum that people learn to live around. Gabryel had learned to navigate that reality. Had built a life despite it. Not because of luck or privilege. Because of determination. She'd found her passion in hairstyling. Had built a client base. Had developed a reputation for being skilled, reliable, creative. Women trusted her with their hair. Which meant they trusted her with how they presented themselves to the world. That's not a small thing. She had dreams. Wanted to open her own salon someday. Wanted to build something that was entirely hers. Wanted to create a space where Black women felt celebrated, not just serviced. She talked about it often. About the vision. About the details. About what it would look like when she finally made it happen. Her friends remember her laugh. The kind that was infectious. That made you laugh even if you didn't know what was funny. They remember her kindness. The way she'd check in on people. Send texts asking if you were okay. Show up when you needed someone. They remember her strength. The way she carried herself. The way she didn't back down. The way she protected the people she loved. Her family remembers her as devoted. As someone who called. Who visited. Who made sure everyone knew they mattered. She wasn't perfect. Nobody is. But she was real. Was present. Was trying to build a future in a city that makes that harder than it should be. On social media, you can still see pieces of her life. Photos of her work. Her clients showing off fresh styles. Pictures of her smiling. Living. Being young and beautiful and full of life. There's one photo in particular that family shared after her death. Gabryel looking directly at the camera. Confident. Radiant. Alive in ways that make her absence feel impossible. She had plans for the week she died. Appointments scheduled. Clients waiting. Normal life continuing in the way it does when you don't know you're running out of time. February 5th was supposed to be an ordinary Wednesday. Another day in a life she was building one choice at a time. She woke up that morning. Got dressed. Made plans. Lived her routine. She had no idea that afternoon would be her last. That by the time the sun set, her name would be added to a list no one wants to be on. The list of Chicago's gun violence victims. The list that keeps growing. That never seems to stop. But before she became a statistic, before she became a headline, before she became a cautionary tale about violence in American cities, Gabryel Ayers was a person. A whole person. With dreams and routines and people who loved her. And that person deserves to be remembered for more than how she died. If you asked anyone who knew Gabryel what defined her in the last year of her life, they'd tell you the same thing. Her daughter. Her baby girl. Just over a year old. The center of Gabryel's universe. Motherhood had changed her. Not in the cliché way people talk about. Not just responsibility or maturity. Something deeper. More fundamental. Her daughter had given her purpose that felt different than ambition. Had given her a reason that superseded all other reasons. Everything she did thinking about that little girl. Every client she took was money for her daughter's future. Every hour she worked was building security for her child. Every decision filtered through the question of what kind of life she was creating for the small person who depended on her completely. Friends remember how she talked about her daughter. With this mix of wonder and protectiveness. Like she couldn't believe something so perfect existed, and was terrified of anything happening to her. She posted photos sometimes. Her daughter's tiny hands. Her smile. Her eyes. Never showing her face completely. Always protecting her privacy even in an age where people share everything. That protectiveness was instinct. Maternal and absolute. Her daughter went everywhere with her when possible. To appointments. To errands. Strapped safely in her car seat in the back of the car. Gabryel was careful. Always made sure the straps were tight. The buckles secure. The way parents do when they understand how fragile life is. When they know that being careful matters. That small choices can mean everything. There were routines between them. Little rituals that might seem mundane to outsiders but were everything to Gabryel. The way she'd sing to her daughter in the car. The way she'd pack snacks and toys. The way she'd check on her in the rearview mirror while driving. Small moments that add up to love. Her daughter was too young to understand most of what was happening around her. Too young to form lasting memories of this time. But Gabryel was creating those memories for both of them. Taking mental photographs. Storing moments. Building a relationship she thought would last a lifetime. She had plans for her daughter's future. Education. Opportunities. Escape from some of the harder realities of the neighborhood they lived in. She wanted better for her child. The way all parents do. Wanted to give her daughter chances she hadn't had. On February 5th, Gabryel had her daughter with her. In the car. In the back seat. Secure in her car seat the way she always was. The baby had a lollipop. Something to keep her content during the drive. Something small and sweet and normal. Gabryel had no reason to think this drive would be different from any other. No warning that danger was coming. No chance to change plans. No opportunity to choose differently. She was just being a mother. Doing the normal things mothers do. Driving with her daughter. Living her ordinary life. Making it through another Wednesday afternoon. And in those final moments before everything changed, her daughter was safe. Was content. Was exactly where Gabryel wanted her to be. Close. Protected. Loved. February 5th, 2026, started like any other Wednesday in Auburn Gresham. Cold. Chicago winter lingering even though spring was supposedly coming. The kind of day where you wore layers. Where your breath fogged. Where you moved quickly from building to car to building again. Gabryel had plans that afternoon. Details that seemed important then. Details that don't matter now except that they explain why she was driving. Why she had her daughter with her. Why she ended up at that particular intersection at that particular time. She was with her boyfriend. 27 years old. They were in a white sedan. Her daughter was in the back. Strapped into her car seat. Content. Calm. The radio might have been playing. They might have been talking. Might have been making plans for later. For dinner. For the weekend. For all the futures that would never happen. The destination doesn't matter. Where they were going. What they were planning. Because they never made it. The drive took them through Auburn Gresham. Through neighborhoods Gabryel knew. Streets she'd driven 1,000 times. Past buildings that were familiar. Past people going about their lives. Past the ordinary scenery of a South Side afternoon. The intersection of 79th and May Street is like so many intersections in Chicago. Busy. Commercial. People moving through. Cars passing. Stores open. Life happening in all its chaotic normalcy. It was 1:25 in the afternoon. Middle of the day. Not late night when violence feels more expected. Not dark hours when streets empty and danger feels closer. Daylight. People everywhere. Witnesses. Traffic. The false security of public space. Gabryel was driving. Her boyfriend in the passenger seat. Her daughter behind them. 3 people in a car doing something completely ordinary. Existing. Moving through space. Unaware. The weather was cold but clear. Visibility was fine. Nothing obscured. Nothing hidden. Just a Wednesday afternoon in February. Just another moment in an ongoing day. There was no warning. No threat that registered. No moment where Gabryel could have looked around and seen danger approaching. No chance to drive faster. To turn down a different street. To be somewhere else. That's what makes random violence so terrifying. The absence of warning. The way it erupts in spaces that should be safe. The way it doesn't announce itself before destroying everything. One moment everything was normal. The car moving. Life continuing. Future still possible. And then, everything changed. The gunfire started without warning. No argument. No confrontation. No escalation. Just violence. Sudden. Overwhelming. 3 masked men. Armed. Running toward the car. In broad daylight. In full view of anyone nearby. Not caring about witnesses. Not hiding. Not hesitating. They opened fire. The sound was deafening. Witnesses would later describe it as unrelenting. Like it wouldn't stop. Like the shooting went on forever. Approximately 50 rounds. 50 bullets fired at a car with 3 people inside. At a mother. At a boyfriend. At a baby. The windows shattered. The metal punctured. The car became a death trap in seconds. Gabryel tried to drive. Tried to escape. Tried to get her daughter out of danger. But there was nowhere to go. The gunmen were too close. The bullets too many. The car careened. Lost control. Crashed into a nearby van. The impact added to the chaos. Added to the horror. Made everything worse. Witnesses dove for cover. Screamed. Ran. Pulled out phones. Captured video that would later circulate. Evidence of something that should never happen. That happens anyway. The St. Sabina Social Service Center food pantry was nearby. Just feet away. The executive director, Tim Allison, was inside. In a meeting. He heard what he thought was a truck stopping. But the sound kept going. Kept echoing. He ran to the front. Looked left. Saw people shooting. Saw the horror unfolding in real time. In a space he knew. In a neighborhood he served. Other people saw it too. Recorded it. The video shows 3 masked figures. Shows them running. Shows guns firing. Shows witnesses ducking. Shows chaos. Shows violence that feels impossible and how brazen it is. The shooting finally stopped. The gunman fled. Got into a red car. Drove away. Disappeared into a city where disappearing is easy if you know how. Left behind wreckage. Left behind victims. Left behind a scene that first responders would never forget. Inside the crashed car, Gabryel was hit. Multiple times. Throughout her body. The injuries were catastrophic. The kind that don't leave room for miracles. Her boyfriend was hit twice. Arm buttocks. Serious but survivable. Painful but not fatal. And in the back seat, the baby. Strapped in. Surrounded by shattered glass. Surrounded by bullet holes. Surrounded by death. But still breathing. If you're still here, type justice for Gabryel in the comments. Because this story doesn't have an ending yet. The people who did this are still out there. Still free. Still dangerous. And a little girl is growing up without her mother. First responders arrived fast. Ambulances. Police. Chaos that comes after violence. They approached the crashed car not knowing what they'd find. Hoping for the best. Preparing for the worst. They found Gabryel first. 26 years old. Dying. They worked fast. Got her into an ambulance. Rushed her to OSF Little Company of Mary Hospital. Tried everything. But some injuries don't leave room for survival. Gabryel Ayers died from her wounds. A mother. A daughter. A hairstylist. Person with dreams. Gone in the middle of an ordinary Wednesday afternoon. Her boyfriend was alive. Wounded. In pain. But alive. They got him to Advocate Christ Medical Center in Oaklawn. He'd survive. Would have to live with what he witnessed. Would have to carry the memory of this moment forever. But he'd live. Then they turned their attention to the back seat. To the car seat. To the baby. And what they found stopped everyone. She was alive. Completely unharmed. Not a scratch. Not a bruise. Not a mark. 50 bullets had torn through that car. Had shattered windows. Had punched holes in metal. had killed her mother, had wounded her boyfriend, had destroyed everything. But somehow, impossibly, miraculously, not a single bullet had touched her. She was still strapped in, still secure, still exactly where her mother had placed her. And she was holding a lollipop, the lollipop her mother had given her, to keep her content during the drive, to make the afternoon easier. A small normal thing that survived the horror. A witness who saw the aftermath captured video, shared it. The image spread. A baby in a car seat, surrounded by destruction, still holding a lollipop, still alive. Kirk Bell, Gabryel's godfather, spoke to reporters, his voice shaking, his grief visible. What's the purpose of shooting at a car when you know there's a child in the car? It was the question everyone was asking, the question that had no good answer. Father Michael Flegger from Street Sabina Church, located just over a block from the shooting, addressed the miracle. Thank God that baby is so young they probably won't remember this day. But that baby is going to know that their mother was killed today. That baby could have been killed. The medical impossibility of it stunned everyone. 50 shots. Close range. Tight space. The physics alone suggested the baby should have been hit, should have been hurt, should have died alongside her mother. But she wasn't. David Moore, 17th Ward Alderman, spoke at a vigil days later. His words captured what the community felt. And if he didn't show that he was still God by protecting that baby, I don't know what else he can show you. The baby was taken to safety, removed from the scene, placed with family, would grow up knowing her mother through stories, through photos, through the memories of people who loved Gabryel. But she'd never remember her mother's voice, never remember being held, never remember the woman who'd given her life twice. Once at birth, once by dying while the baby somehow survived. The survival wasn't a comfort, wasn't something to celebrate. It was complicated, painful, a reminder that tragedy doesn't follow rules, that sometimes the worst thing happens alongside the most inexplicable mercy. Gabryel's daughter would live, would grow up, would have chances her mother wanted for her. But she'd do it without the person who loved her most, without the woman who'd protected her even in death. The lollipop became a symbol, appeared in tributes, in art, in memorial posts, a small object that represented innocence surviving in the middle of violence, that represented the impossible coexistence of horror and hope, that represented a mother's last gift to her child. After the shooting, the questions came fast. Who did this? Why? What possible reason justified 50 bullets fired at a car in broad daylight? The investigation began immediately. Chicago Police Area 2 detectives took the case, started gathering evidence, interviewing witnesses, reviewing surveillance footage. The video evidence was extensive, multiple angles, multiple witnesses filming. The attack itself captured in brutal detail. 3 masked gunmen, running toward the car, opening fire, fleeing in a red vehicle. Clear documentation of violence. But documentation isn't identification. Masks hid faces, distance obscured details, and witnesses, even with video, couldn't always provide the information investigators needed. Who were these men? Where did they come from? Why target Gabryel? The motive remained unclear. Police investigation was ongoing, but no obvious answers emerged. No clear reason why a 26-year-old hairstylist and mother would be targeted for execution-style murder in the middle of the day. Some speculated about mistaken identity, wrong place, wrong time, the randomness that makes urban violence so terrifying. But others wondered if there was more. Something targeted, something intentional, something that made sense to the shooters even if it made no sense to anyone else. Gabryel's boyfriend survived, could potentially provide information. But what he knew, what he could tell investigators, remained between him and law enforcement. The community demanded answers, demanded action, demanded that someone be held accountable. Cook County Crime Stoppers offered a reward, up to $10,000 for information leading to an arrest. The announcement spread through the neighborhood, through social media, through the networks of people who might have seen something, heard something, known something. Father Michael Flegger increased the reward from St. Sabina Church. Another $10,000. $20,000 total for information that could solve this case. Don't be silent, Flegger urged. Don't sit back, because if you do, then you are a co-conspirator to everything that they do. The plea was direct, urgent, rooted in the understanding that violence continues when communities go silent, that shooters stay free when witnesses stay quiet, that justice requires participation. Mayor Brandon Johnson attended a vigil, stood with community members, acknowledged the tragedy. This tragedy continues to tear at the thread of the soul of Chicago, he said. There's tragedies like this that remind us of how much more work that we have to do. The political response was expected. The promises to do better. The acknowledgement of systemic failure. The vow to make changes. Words that meant something to some. Words that rang hollow to others who'd heard them before. Senator Willie Preston was more direct. More angry. The people that pulled out automatic weapons on this very land that we stand on, ran up in broad daylight and murdered Gabryel are monsters to me. I'm calling on every person to say enough is enough. The investigation continued. Weeks passing. No arrests announced. No breakthrough reported. The case remained open, active, but unsolved. And every day that passed was another day Gabryel's killer walked free. Another day her daughter grew up without justice. Another day the community lived with the knowledge that violence could erupt anywhere, anytime, for reasons that might never make sense. 3 days after Gabryel died, hundreds gathered at the corner of 79th and May Street, the spot where she was killed, where her daughter survived, where violence had interrupted ordinary life in the most brutal way possible. It was a vigil, but it was more than that. It was grief, rage, exhaustion, hope, desperation, all mixed together in the way communities process tragedy. Pamela Bosley, co-founder of Purpose Over Pain, spoke. Her organization was formed by parents who'd lost children to gun violence. Parents who understood exactly what Gabryel's family was experiencing. We need justice for our children, she said. These are our children's lives being shot and killed. If you don't do anything about it, let me tell you, you're going to stand up with us here next. And this is not where you want to be. The warning was clear. This could happen to anyone. Violence didn't discriminate, didn't ask permission, didn't limit itself to people who'd made bad choices or lived dangerous lives. It reached out and grabbed whoever was there, including 26-year-old mothers, including babies in car seats, including anyone unfortunate enough to be in the wrong place when someone decided life was disposable. Adrienne Swanigan Williams attended the vigil. Her son Tremaine Henderson was killed in 2017. She knew Gabryel, remembered her as sweet, loving, devoted to her baby. She loves her baby. She was a hairstylist, Swanigan Williams told reporters. It's unfortunate that this happened to her. All I can do is pray for her family. The community stood together. Police officers attended, held an outdoor roll call at the scene, a symbolic show of solidarity. A promise that they were paying attention, that they were working the case, that they hadn't forgotten. Commander Andre Poston of the 6th District spoke to the crowd. We're here for you. We're out here. We stand together. We continue to partner with one another, that you guys are willing to come forward and help us, give us information. The plea for cooperation was constant, repeated by everyone who spoke, by police, by faith leaders, by community organizers, by politicians. Please, if you know something, if you saw something, if you heard something, come forward. Help us solve this. Help us get justice for Gabryel. Help us make sure her daughter knows her mother's death mattered. Demetric Brown attended the vigil. She lost her adult daughter to gun violence in 2021. She understood the pain, the permanence, the way grief doesn't resolve, just changes shape. I can just relate to what this family is going through, she said. And it just reminds me we need to get these guns off the streets. The call wasn't just about solving one murder. It was about addressing the larger pattern, the endless cycle, the way gun violence kept taking people, kept destroying families, kept making widows and orphans and grieving parents. Chicago had seen some improvement in recent years. 2025 recorded the fewest murders in 60 years. Progress that felt significant, that suggested maybe finally things were changing. But individual tragedies reminded everyone that statistics meant nothing when it was your mother, your daughter, your friend, Your neighbor. When it was Gabryel. Gabryel's family tried to process the impossible. Their daughter. Their niece. Their goddaughter. Their cousin. Gone. Taken by violence that made no sense. That couldn't be undone. That left a hole that would never fill. And they had to figure out how to raise a 1-year-old girl who'd lost her mother. How to explain someday what happened. How to make sure she knew how much Gabryel loved her. How much Gabryel had wanted for her. How hard Gabryel had worked to build a future that got stolen in seconds. The community continued to gather. Continued to demand justice. Continued to say Gabryel's name. Continued to insist that her life mattered. That her death wasn't acceptable. That someone needed to be held accountable. But as weeks passed, as the news cycle moved on, as other tragedies demanded attention, the fear grew that this case would become another statistic. Another unsolved murder. Another black woman killed in Chicago whose killer never faced consequences. Another family left without answers. Without closure. Without justice. Gabryel Ayers was murdered on February 5, 2026. As of today, no one has been arrested. No one has been charged. No one has been held accountable for taking a mother away from her daughter. For ending a life that had so much more to give. For creating another tragic story in a city that has too many. Her daughter is growing up. Getting older. Reaching milestones her mother should be there for. First words. First steps. Birthdays. Moments that should include Gabryel but never will. The baby who survived is now a child who will grow up knowing her mother through stories. Through photographs. Through the memories of people who loved Gabryel. Through the video of a vigil held for a woman she was too young to remember. She'll grow up knowing she survived something that killed her mother. That she sat in a car seat holding a lollipop while bullets destroyed everything around her. That she was protected by something, someone, some force that left her untouched in the middle of massacre. She'll grow up in a world that took her mother. That failed to protect Gabryel. That still hasn't found the people responsible. That might never find them. Gabryel's family continues to grieve. Continues to demand justice. Continues to hope that someone somewhere knows something that could solve this case. The $20,000 reward still stands. The investigation is still active. The case is still open. But every day that passes makes hope a little harder. Makes justice feel a little more distant. Makes the possibility of accountability seem less certain. The community continues to fight. To organize. To demand change. To insist that Black lives matter. That women's lives matter. That mother's lives matter. That Gabryel's life mattered. Father Flegger continues to speak out. To offer support. To push for information. To refuse to let this case become just another unsolved murder. Mayor Johnson continues to promise change. To acknowledge the work that needs to be done. To speak about the soul of Chicago being torn. Chicago police continue to investigate. Continue to ask for tips. Continue to work a case that has clear video evidence but no arrests. And somewhere in Chicago, 3 men walk free. 3 men who ran up to a car in broad daylight. Who fired 50 shots. Who killed a mother. Who traumatized a community. Who created an orphan. 3 men who know exactly what they did. Who might be watching this video right now. This is a call to everyone who knows something. Everyone who saw something. Everyone who heard something. Even if you think it's small. Even if you're not sure it matters. Even if you're afraid. Gabryel's daughter deserves justice. Deserves to grow up in a world where her mother's killers face consequences. Deserves to know that her mother's life had enough value that people fought to hold someone accountable. You can call Cook County Crime Stoppers at 1-800-535-STOP. You can submit information at cpdtip.com. You will remain completely anonymous. No one will know you came forward. But your information could be the piece that solves this case. That brings justice. That gives a little girl some small measure of closure. Gabryel Ayers was 26 years old. She was a hairstylist. A daughter. A friend. A mother. She had dreams. She had plans. She had a future. She deserved to live. She deserved to watch her daughter grow up. She deserved to open that salon she talked about. She deserved decades more of life. Instead, she got violence. Got randomness. Got bullets in broad daylight. Got a death that made no sense. got added to a list that's too long. Her daughter got a miracle, got survival, got life, but also got loss. Got growing up without the person who loved her most. Got having to learn about her mother through other people's memories instead of making her own. This story doesn't have a happy ending. It doesn't have any ending at all yet. It's suspended, waiting, unresolved, demanding justice that hasn't come, demanding accountability that might never arrive. But Gabryel's name won't be forgotten. Her daughter will grow up knowing her mother was loved, was valued, was worth fighting for. The community will keep demanding answers, keep pushing for justice, keep insisting that this matters. And maybe, hopefully, someone watching this will do the right thing. Will make the call. Will provide the information that finally brings this case to a close. Gabryel Ayers deserved better than she got. Her daughter deserves better than growing up without answers. And a community deserves better than watching violence continue without consequence. This is Gabryel's story. A life that mattered. A death that should never have happened. And a daughter who survived the impossible but lost everything. If you have any information about this case, please contact Cook County Crime Stoppers at 1-800-535-STOP or visit cpdtip.com. Your tip could be the one that brings justice for Gabryel and her daughter. Subscribe to this channel for more true crime stories that demand justice, that center victims, that refuse to let names be forgotten. Drop a comment with your thoughts. Share this video so Gabryel's story reaches more people. Because sometimes justice requires all of us speaking up. Gabryel Ayers. Say her name. Remember her life. And help bring her killers to justice.